Okay, week 2. Same thing, I just want to keep you so you
Each crime is
know this stuff. So, graph the following equations, list the domain and range. So you have this equation, you're going to graph it over here. Don't be sitting there trying to number it, it's not that big of a deal. So you have an x to the second power, that means it's a quadratic equation, that means it's a parabola. So you need 3 coordinate points. This middle is known as your vertex. You will want to label the vertex. So you have an A. If it has an x squared, it's an A. If it has nothing at all, it's a C. So since there's no B, that means the middle coordinate 0, and then +1, -1. You just plug it in. So 3, 1 to the second, +4, I got 7. Click up, 4. 3, -1 to the second, back to 7. Okay, so 1, 7, so I go 1, 7 somewhere there, 0, 4. Please label the 0, 4, that's important, especially the 4 later on. I go left 1 up there. Okay, then I want a domain and I want a range. Domain is your x's, range is your y's. The x's are all because there's arrows on both ends of the parabola. So all. Okay, the y, you take that 4, and everything's above the 4, so it's greater than or equal to 4. Okay, number 2. Y equals -2x to the second plus 8. Got to graph it. Okay, that's an A and a C, so the B is 0. Okay, alright, then you plug it in. So -2 times 1 to the second plus 8 gives me 6. Pretty sure that one's 6 too. 8. So 1, 6. Forward 1, up 6, 0, 8 would be above that, because that's 6, that's 8, it's going to be above it. -1, 6. Now it goes down, which is to be expected because you have a negative at the beginning. So domain, range. Label the middle, 0, 8. And circle the 8, that's key. Domain, x equals all. In the range we go y, and then 8. Everything's below the 8, so this time it's less than or equal to. Okay, number 3. Y equals -4x to the second minus 8x minus 3. Okay, this time I got an A, I got a B, I got a C. So if you actually have a B, you don't just put -8 there. You have to apply your opposite of B divided by 2 times A. So the opposite of -8 is 8, and then A would be -4. Now what's 2 times -4? That'd be -8. So I'd take 8 divided by -8. It's -1. Then we add 1 and subtract 1. Okay, then I plug them in. So -4 times 0 to the second minus 8 times 0 minus 3. That's -3. That's also going to be -3. Now I got to figure out my vertex. One. Okay. Okay, plot it. 0, -3. -1, 1. Label that. May label the middle, especially the second number, because that's going to help us with our range. Then -2, -3 goes downward. That's expected because we have a negative in the front. So domain, range. Domain is all. The range, we got 1. And all points are below that, so it's less than or equal to 1. Number 4, y equals x to the second, that's an a, minus 8x. If it has an x, it's a b, plus 3, c. So I have a, and b, so when b's in the mix, wasn't on the first two, so I could just put 0. But when b's in the mix, you got to take opposite of b divided by 2 times a. That is the formula to find the vertex of a quadratic equation. So you got 8 opposite, and then we got 1. 2 times 1 is 2, so you have 8 divided by 2, and that's 4. Add 1, subtract 1, and we have it. Okay, so 1, and then 5 to the second, minus 8, and then 5, plus 3. I got negative 12. That's negative 12, too. Click up. How about 4? Negative 13. Okay. So 5, negative 12 be way down there. 4, negative 13 would be even further down. Then 3, negative 12. So it goes up because we have a positive there. Then how about the domain and the range? Domain x equals all. The range, you got y, middle, label that middle, 4, negative 13. Negative 13 is the key. You're above that, okay? It goes up from there, so greater than, equal to negative 13. Okay, now we're solving equations. Okay, so find a piece of paper and write these rules down. I know it's annoying you have to write it. I would just give it to you if I was there, but I'm not. If you have ax to the squared and bx with no c, you make sure it's equal to 0. Then you use your GCF. Then F1, F2. That's how to solve those. Equals 0. Space parentheses, GCF parentheses equals 0. And you'll be ready to solve it. Now, if you have ax to the second plus c, okay, and there's no b, here there's no c, so this is the way here, there's no b, then you get x squared by itself. No boxes, you don't use boxes on this. Then you apply a square root, okay? When I have ax to the second plus bx plus c, you make sure you're equal to 0 first. Then you apply the discriminant formula, double parentheses, b to the second minus 4ac. Do that on a calculator. Now, if you get not a decimal, you go GCF and then your t. Now you're going to want, after you find out your t, you're going to want to know what your a equals. So if you need 2 parentheses or 4, if a is 1, you need 2. If you get a decimal, an irrational decimal, you're going to use the quadratic formula. That's the whole thing, okay? This is only part of it. Okay, and that's one full thing. Obviously, that's the most work when there's an A, a B, and a C. Now, there is an instance where you have X in a parentheses to the second. Then you would use your Q to the second, and then your table where you bring back the X expression. So those are your 4 scenarios. Okay, so number 5, we have x to the power 2 minus 3x minus 40 equals 0. Okay, all of these have 2 answers. I'm going to do 2 on each page. What do we have? Well, we have an A, a B, and a C. So we make sure we're equal to 0, which we are. Then we go to this on a calculator. So negative 3 to the second, that's my B, minus 4, just like I'm punching it in, 1, negative 40. Okay, you got a whole numbers, not a decimal, so I want to do the GCFT, okay? And I'll put F1, F2 there because I'll get them in the parentheses. Okay, GCF 1, 3, and 40 would just be 1. You wouldn't do an X, so if it's 1, don't do it. 1 times negative 40 is negative 40. That's a positive times a negative, and we need to add the factors to get negative 3. So I start dividing 40 by numbers. 1 and 40, that ain't anywhere close. Divide 40 by 2, you get 20. That's not negative 3. 40 divided by 3 is a decimal. 4 and 10, nope, that's negative 6. Getting closer, don't circle it. Divide by 5, you get 8. Bingo. Okay, and it's negative 3, exactly like I want it. Now the A is 1, so if A is 1, just get rid of the 1, you just need 2 parentheses, okay? So that would be X plus 5, X minus 8. Now I've rewritten this into 2 parentheses. You have F1, F2. So X plus 5 equals 0, X minus 8 equals 0. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. There's your first answer. 0 plus 8 is 8. Negative 5 and 8, the 2 answers. They all have 2 answers that you're looking for. Okay, number 6, we have 4x to the second minus 49 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. That's an A, that's a C. There's no B. So what do I do when I have an A and a C? Well, I get the x squared by itself, so I need to add 49, and that's 49. Then I divide by 4. That's a decimal, but that's okay. 49 divided by 4. Actually, tell you what, why don't you, if it's a decimal, just leave it 49 over 4. Trust me. Then you do a square root. This works out perfectly. What's the square root of 49? It's 7. Square root of 4 is 2. So 7 over 2, or negative 7 over 2, because when you apply a square root, we could have the positive or the negative. Okay, number 7. 3x to the second minus 27 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. That's an A and a C, same thing. Add your, as the last problem. 3x second equals 27, divide by 3, I get 9. Don't apply the square root till after the x squared is by itself. That's why it says by itself. Now I apply the square root to the 9. That's 3, negative 3. Okay, number 8. See, when I have this, I know exactly what I'm doing for every single problem. X to the second plus 6x equals 10x. 2 answers. This is an A, that's a B too. It has an X, it's a B, there's no C. So I have A and B, so I have to get it equal to 0 first. So 0, I would subtract 10x, and I can subtract that from the positive 6x. So it's 1x squared minus 4x equals 0. Now what do I do? Do the GCF, okay? F1, F2 then. 1 and 4 would just be 1, but it would need an x, okay? So 1x is out, and I go up and divide by 1x. Guys, it's not 1x to the second. X squared divided by x takes it down to x, and then minus 4. Now I'm good. F1, F2. So 1x could equal 0, 1x minus 4 could equal 0. So I divide by 1, I get 0. I add 4, I get 4, 1x equals 4, ditch the 1, 4 and 0. Okay, number 9, 4x to the second minus 3x equals 2x to the second plus 9. So there's 2 answers. That's an A, that's a B, that's an A, that's a C. We have A, B, and C, so you need to have it equal to 0. Now put your A with your other A over here. 9 can't go anywhere, so it goes at the end. Then, so x squared, 4 minus 2 is 2, x minus 3, and then minus 9, okay? Okay, then you plug those into the discriminant formula. So second x squared, double it, and then negative 3 to the second minus 4, 2, negative 9. Okay, got a whole number, so we got to go this route. So GCF and the table. Okay, GCF would be 1. You wouldn't do an x, so that's irrelevant. A times C. 2 times negative 9 is 18 negative, so that's positive times negative. We're trying to add to negative 3. That's negative 17. That's negative 7. That's negative 3. Okay, what's the A? It's 2 this time. So if it's not 1, we have to deal with the 2 with 4 parentheses. So I go 2, 2, and then x plus 3, x minus 6. Okay, 2 and 3 are only in the first row, so I divide by 1, it stays 2x plus 3, and that's F1. 2 and 6. 2, so there's in the second row, so divide by 2, and that's 1x minus 3. So F1, F2. So 2x plus 3 could equal 0, or 1x minus 3 could equal 0. So I minus 3, 0 take away 3 is negative 3, divide by 2, just leave it negative 3 over 2. Plus 3 plus 3, 1x equals 3, ditch the 1, and those are the answers. Okay. Number 10, x second minus 12x plus 30 equals negative 5. So there's two answers. What do we have in regards to A, B, and C? Well, we got A, 12's a B, 30's a C, 5's a C. So A, B, and C all together, okay? You got to get it equal to 0 first, so I want a 0 there. I'd add 5. That's a C, so I add 5 to my other C. So 1x second minus 12x plus 35 equals 0. So GCF and the table. Oh no, hold on. Let me plug that in, make sure, okay? I'm pretty sure it's GCF table. Kind of jumped the gun there. So negative 12 to the second minus 4, 1, 35. Yep, whole number, so I was right. GCF's just 1, so disregard it. 1 times 35 is 35. This time it's a positive, so that's a negative negative. The signs have to be the same to multiply to a positive. A, we're adding to try to get to negative 12. 1 and 35, nope. If you divide by 2, 3, and 4, 35 by 2, by 3, by 4, you get decimals. So 5, 7, bam. Okay, that's negative 12. And A is 1, so I can forget the 1 and just go x minus 5 times x minus 7. F1, F2. So x minus 5 could equal 0, x minus 7 could equal 0. So we add 5, I get 5. Add 7, we get 7. 5 and 7 are the two answers. Number 11, x second plus 4x minus 9 equals 0. So there's two answers. Okay, you got A, B, and C again. So you're equal to 0 already. Now punch it into the discriminant and see if you would be able to factor it. 4 to the second minus 4, 1, negative 9. Okay, that's not factorable. Keep that on the calculator, and we're going to use this, the quadratic formula. This won't work. You'll never get your t-chart to find the numbers because it's a prime expression. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root. B squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now, well, I don't need to waste time with this. I already know what that is. It's 7.21. Okay, opposite of b would be negative 4, and then a would be 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So I take negative 4, and I add 7.21, click equals, then divide by 2. 1.61. Then I take negative 4, and now I subtract the 7.21. Click equals, and then I divide by 2, just like that. Negative 5.61. It's just that fast. Okay. Okay, number 12. We have 3x to the second minus 9x equals 25. So there's two answers. A, B, C. Equals 0. You don't have the 0, you need to get a 0. So minus 25. Now 25 is a C. There's no C over there, so you just put minus 25 at the end. So we now have 3x second minus 9x minus 25 equals 0. Now punch that into the discriminant and see if you have to waste time with the t-chart, or if you can just use quadratic formula. Yeah, the t-chart won't work. Keep that on there, so we're going to do it like we did up here. Opposite of b, opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. So opposite of minus 9 is 9. A is 3. That's 2 times 3 is 6. Get rid of that square root. We already know that's 19.52. If you put 51, who cares, okay? So I take 9 plus 19.52, click equals, divide by 6, 4.75, rounded. Then I go 9 minus 19.52, divided by 6, negative 1.75. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, 13. 5x to the second plus 8x equals negative 3. So it has two answers. All of them do. Okay, you got A, B, and C. So again, you got to make sure you have 0. You don't have that yet. So plus 3. Now that was a C. There's no C over there, so I put plus 3 at the end. So 5x to the second, the A comes first, then the B, then the C, and now I'm ready to roll. Discriminant formula. 8 to the second minus 4, 5, 3. Ooh, I got a whole number, okay. Beings is how that, now I need to go back to my GCF-T. Whoops, forgot the GCF box. I don't think I'm going to need it anyway, because it's just 1. 5 times 3 is 15, positive, so it's a negative times a negative, trying to add to positive 8. Well, if I'm trying to add a positive 8, it's probably a positive times a positive, okay. Divide by 1, 15, nope. 2's a decimal, 3 and 5, yep, there it is. Now my A is not 1, it's 5, so you need 4 parentheses. You got to pay attention to that, because if it's a 5, you can't just get rid of it like you can with a 1 and say it's XX. So 5x plus 3 plus 5. 5 and 3, it's 1, so 5x plus 3. You need to divide that by 5, okay, if it's the same number, so it's 1x plus 1. And that has been now rewritten into two factors, f1, f2, two linear factors. So 5x plus 3 could equal 0, as can 1x plus 1. So I subtract 3, that would be 5x would equal negative 3, and x would be negative 3/5. Minus 1, that would be negative 1. You don't really need to divide by 1, it's just negative 1. Okay, so that had two rational solutions, so you need to use this, not the quadratic formula. Number 14, last one before we get to the two-story problems. We have x to the second minus 8x plus 11 equals 0. Okay, what do we have? We have A, we got B, we got C. Okay, A, B, and C, make sure you're equal to 0. We are. Now I plug it into the discriminant formula. Okay, definitely had to use quadratic formula. Opposite of b plus or minus d square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Ditch that square root. You just plugged it in. It's 4.47. Put it on the top. And also when you put it on top, don't square root it. Okay, I just square rooted it on a calculator. Opposite of b is 8, and then a is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So you go 8 plus 4.47 divided by 2, 6.23 or 24. I'm going to go 24. 8 minus 4.47 divided by 2, 1.77. Okay, now it's story problem time. I'm going to do one story problem on each page. So number 15. A sports store sells about 50 mountain bikes per month at a price of $220 each. For each $20 decrease in price, 10 more bikes per month are sold. So if I decrease that by 20, it's down to 200, and then that goes up by 10. So 260, 180, 70, okay, 160, 80, okay. But eventually I need to stop because if I keep going, I'm going to be giving them away for free. There's that word maximize. You draw a big giant parabola in the center, and your job is to figure out what coordinate that would be. To find x, it is not the quadratic formula. It's opposite of b divided by 2 times a, and then y. I just plug x into equation. Now we actually have to write an equation. So on a parabola, I need y equals blank x second with a plus blank x b plus blank with c. Okay, now you have to know how to write a revenue. Y is going to be the money that we make. Now, how do you make money? Well, you take the dollars you charge times the number of items you sell. You need to put the $2 numbers in here. You cannot go 50 and 20. Okay, those are two different labels. You got to arrange your labels so they're in the same parentheses. 220. 20 decrease, so that's 220 minus 20, x. Don't put an x there, you put on the second number because that's what you start at 200. That's given, okay? So you don't put an x. What you don't know is how many 20s you're going to be subtracting. And then 50, if that's minus, that's plus, and that would be 50 and 10. But the 10 needs an x too. Now you need to apply the FOIL method. Hate writing against a spiral. So I take 220 times 50. Then I take 220 times 10x. Then I take negative 20x. Don't forget that it's negative, please, times 50. And then negative 20x times 10x. You can't ignore the 20 being negative. Okay, so 220 times 50, I got 11,000. That's a C. 220 times 10 is 2,200x. That's a B. Negative 20 times 50 is negative 1,000x. That's a B. Negative 20 times 10 is negative 200. X to the second. As x to the second, it's an A. So negative 200 is my A. Then my B, I add those. 2,200 plus negative 1,000 is 1,200. And then 11,000 is your C. Then you come back up here. Opposite of B, negative 1,200. 2 times A. A is negative 200. 2 times negative 200 is negative 400. So I'm dividing a negative by a negative. So that's going to be a positive. I got 3. Now I plug 3 in for the x's to find y. Because at its maximum, the x is 3. Well, what's the y? $12,800. Now, this is the answer. You just have to label it correctly. This is the money you make. This is how many changes you make to the price, okay? So you would go from 220, you'd go down 20 to 200, down 20 again to 180, down 20 to 160. So you'd charge $160 for a bike, and then you'd be selling up 10, 60, 70, 80. Okay, you'd sell 80 bikes, you'd sell them for $160 each. Okay, that's your answer there, though. I'm just explaining what it means. Okay, last one, number 16. Patio's length is 8 less than 3 times its width. Its area is 220 square feet. Approximate the dimensions of the garden, length and width. So you got to use the area equation. And the area is 220, so length, width. Now you need to use that is, so you write equals. Right in front of the is it says length. After the is it says 8 less than 3 times its width, so I put W. Then 3 times means I apply a 3 in front of the W, so 3 times W. Then 8 less would mean minus 8. You put minus 8 behind it, not in the front, okay? So get rid of that L and put 3W minus 8, and then here we're just going to put W. Okay, multiply it out, and then you use your equation solving rules. Okay, so 3W times 1W, and then negative 8 times 1W. So that'd be 3W squared, and that'd be negative 8W. Then 220. So we know we got 2 answers for W. We have an A, a B, and a C. What do you do when you have an A, B, and C? Well, first off, you have to have one side equal to 0. That's a C. I have no C, so I just put it behind everything. A, B, C. So 3W squared minus 8W minus 220 equals 0. Now use your discriminant formula to see if you need to do the, actually, yeah, just use discriminant. Second. Okay, I know I didn't get a decimal, so this T-chart would work, but it would take forever, so I'm just going to go, on the story problems, I'm just going to go to this, okay? Just to save time, because that T-chart, it would work, but you would find it, but it takes forever, as they say in Sandlot. Okay, get rid of this. We know it's 52. Opposite of B, it's 8. 2 times 3 is 6, okay? So I take 8 plus 52, divide by 6. I got 10. I take 8 minus 52, divide by 6, negative 7.33. Ditch the negative, you don't need it on a story problem. Your width is 10. That is not your length. Don't put that for your length. To find your length, you come up here. So if the length is equal to 3 times W minus 8, then it's 3 times 10 minus 8. So that's 30 minus 8 is 22. So 22 and 10.